the reverse migration nobody's talking about, why Black excellence is reclaiming the South. Welcome to the Pink Parachute Diaries podcast, where we amplify the voices of Black women who are making waves in their respective fields, celebrating their triumphs and sharing insights that inspire others to pursue excellence without limits. Today, I want to share something extraordinary with you. I recently had the privilege of interviewing Tamara Burks, a visionary leader who is transforming how we think about opportunity, community, and the future of Black professional excellence. Tamara Burks is not just observing change, she is actively creating it, building pathways for Black women and professionals to thrive in spaces that have historically excluded them. Her work is reshaping the landscape of economic empowerment and leadership. And the insights she shared with me challenge everything we think we know about where opportunity lives and how it's created. She is a force for good in this world. Someone who refuses to accept the status quo and instead builds new realities where Black women can flourish, lead, and prosper on their own terms. Let me start with something that might surprise you. When we think about Black professionals seeking better opportunities, we often imagine them leaving the South, heading to coastal cities, chasing the promise of diversity initiatives and progressive corporate cultures. We've been told for decades that the path to success means getting out, moving away from the places where our ancestors struggled, where Jim Crow laws were written, where systemic oppression was most visible. But here's what Tamara Burks revealed to me. And here's what the data is now showing us. That narrative, it's outdated. In fact, it's being completely rewritten right now. At this very moment, there is a powerful reverse migration happening. Young Black professionals, particularly Black women, are intentionally moving to Southern cities, not because they are running out of options elsewhere, not because they've been pushed out of other markets, but because they are choosing to reclaim space, build wealth, and create vibrant, supportive communities on their own terms. They are not escaping adversity. They are actively shaping new centers of Black excellence, freedom, and prosperity in places that have historically been sites of struggle. Think about that for a moment. No, the South, which many of us were taught to view as a place to leave behind, is becoming the destination, the place where Black women and Black professionals are building empires, launching businesses, creating networks, and establishing what Tamara calls freedom zones. Spaces where Black excellence is not just tolerated, but celebrated, supported, and amplified. This is not a small trend, this is a movement. Let me share with you what's actually happening on the ground because the numbers tell a story that will challenge everything you thought you knew. Take Houston, Texas. Houston has emerged as one of the leading cities for Black professionals in the entire nation. 21% of local businesses in Houston are Black owned, 21%. That's not a marginal presence. That's a significant economic force. Houston has one of the strongest concentrations of Black educators and doctors in the country. But this didn't happen overnight. For decades, Black Houstonians faced historic underrepresentation, systemic bias, and limited access to capital. They were excluded from economic and civic life in ways that were deliberate and devastating. Banks wouldn't lend to them, corporations wouldn't hire them. The system was designed to keep them out. But here's what happened. The Black community in Houston didn't wait for permission. They didn't wait for corporate America to open its doors wider. They built robust professional networks. They supported local Black owned businesses with their dollars, their time, their expertise. They leveraged educational institutions like Texas Southern University to foster leadership and create pipelines of talent. They mentored each other. They invested in each other. They refused to accept the limits that society tried to impose on them. And when Young Black professionals started arriving in greater numbers, drawn by word of mouth, by the energy, by the possibility. They didn't just join the existing ecosystem, they accelerated it. They brought fresh ideas, new capital, different perspectives. They opened restaurants, law firms, tech startups, medical practices. They bought homes. They invested in their communities. They built generational wealth. Today, Houston boasts one of the highest Black employment rates in the nation. The Black median income in Houston is above the national average. There is a vibrant, visible Black middle class that is growing, thriving, and setting the standard for what's possible. The growth in Black business ownership, the increased representation in education and healthcare, the higher rates of home ownership, all of this is proof that intentional community building can turn a city into a beacon for Black prosperity and leadership. Houston's transformation demonstrates something critical. When Black professionals come together, when they support each other, when they build with intention, they don't just survive, they create entirely new economies. They don't just participate in the existing system, they build their own systems, systems that work for them, systems that value them, systems that amplify their excellence. Now, let's talk about Atlanta. Atlanta, Georgia is widely recognized as a launchpad for Black entrepreneurs and professionals. 37% of local businesses in Atlanta are Black owned. 37%. Let that sink in. In a country where Black people make up 13% of the population, Atlanta has created an environment where more than a third of all businesses are Black owned. Atlanta maintains the highest median Black income in the nation. It continues to attract new talent and investment in Black led ventures at a pace that is unmatched anywhere else in the country. Young professionals are moving there in droves. Entrepreneurs are launching startups. Investors are funding Black owned businesses. Artists are creating. Leaders are emerging. But Atlanta's success didn't happen by accident, and it's not happening without resistance. The Black community in Atlanta has contended with gentrification that is pushing longtime residents out of neighborhoods their families built. They've dealt with rising living costs that threaten to price out the very people who made the city what it is. They've watched as federal policies erode civil rights protections that previous generations fought and died for. These are real threats. These are challenges that could have derailed like progress. Instead, local leaders and organizations doubled down. They supported Black owned businesses even more aggressively. They created mentorship programs that connect seasoned entrepreneurs with those just starting out. They advocated for policy changes at the city level, fighting for affordable housing, for business incentives, for protections against displacement. They organized, they mobilized, they refused to let external threats dictate their future. Atlanta's legacy as a center for civil rights and Black culture laid the groundwork for today's entrepreneurial boom. The city that gave us Martin Luther King Jr., that was the headquarters of the civil rights movement, that has always been a place where Black people dared to dream bigger. That legacy didn't disappear. It evolved. It transformed into a new kind of freedom struggle. One fought not just in the streets, but in boardrooms, in startup incubators, in real estate markets, in venture capital firms. But it's the intentional action, the strategic collaboration, the refusal to accept limits that has sustained growth in Black business creation, increased political influence, and earned Atlanta its recognition as a Black Mecca. Atlanta's example shows us something powerful. Community resilience and strategic action can counteract external threats and foster lasting prosperity. Even when federal policies roll back diversity and equity initiatives, even when the larger system seems to be moving backward, local communities can move forward. This is what Tamara Burks calls building freedom zones. spaces where Black women and Black professionals are not waiting for permission, not waiting for the system to change, but actively creating the conditions for their own success. They're not asking for a seat at the table. They're building their own tables. They're not waiting to be included. They're creating their own spaces where inclusion is the foundation, not the exception. And it's not just happening in Houston and Atlanta, it's happening in Charlotte, in Dallas, in Memphis, in cities across the South where Black professionals are choosing to invest their talent, their resources, and their energy. They're buying property, they're starting businesses, they're running for office, they're building schools, they're creating art, they're establishing legacies. But here's the question we have to ask: what makes this possible? What allows these communities to thrive when so many Black professionals in other parts of the country are still fighting just to be seen, just to be heard, just to be valued? The answer is community as power. Let me share with you one more example that illustrates this beautifully. The Global 100 Leadership Collective brings together top Black professionals across industries to foster leadership, collaboration, and peer mentorship. These are not just any professionals. These are people at the top of their fields, executives, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, innovators, people who have broken through barriers and achieved remarkable success. But here's the thing: even at that level, they still face systemic barriers. They still deal with bias in boardrooms. They still lack access to the highest levels of senior leadership. They still operate in industries where their networks are limited and their opportunities are constrained by invisible ceilings that others don't even know exist. The members of this collective understand something that many people miss. Individual success is important, but it's not enough. If you're the only one who makes it, if you're the only one in the room, if you're the exception rather than the rule, then the system hasn't really changed. You've just managed to navigate it despite its flaws. So the collective provides something that changes the game: strategic leadership workshops that go beyond basic professional development, peer coaching circles where people at the highest levels can be vulnerable, can share their challenges, can learn from each other's experiences, cross industry networking that breaks down silos and creates unexpected collaborations, emphasis on emotional intelligence and personal branding that helps Black professionals not just survive, but thrive in spaces that weren't designed for them. These are not just feel good programs. These are tools that participants use to achieve tangible results. They report increased confidence in their leadership abilities. They build expanded networks that open doors previously closed to them. They experience real career advancement, promotions, board appointments, business partnerships, speaking opportunities. The collective was formed to address persistent gaps in leadership representation and support for Black professionals. And what it has accomplished is remarkable. Members have successfully transitioned into C suite roles. They've launched collaborative projects that are changing industries. They've created a global alumni network that continues to support and elevate its members long after they complete the program. They've become mentors to the next generation, passing on not just knowledge, but access, not just advice, but opportunity. The collective's motto is helping to reshape professional norms. It is demonstrating the power of intentional community building and mutual support. It is proving that when Black professionals come together, when they share knowledge, when they share resources, when they share access, when they lift each other up, they don't just advance individually, they transform entire industries. They change what's possible. They redefine what leadership looks like. They create new pathways that others can follow. This is the insight that Tamara Burks shared with me. And this is the insight that I want to leave with you today. We have been taught to believe that success is an individual pursuit, that if we work hard enough, if we're smart enough, if we're resilient enough, we will make it on our own. The myth of the self made person, the idea that asking for help is weakness, the belief that we have to compete with each other rather than collaborate. And yes, individual effort matters, your talent matters, your work ethic matters, your vision matters. But what the stories of Houston, Atlanta, and the Global 100 Leadership Collective show us is that collective action is what creates lasting change. Individual success is beautiful, but collective power is transformative. When Black women and Black professionals build networks, when they support each other's businesses with their dollars and their referrals, when they mentor the next generation with their time and their wisdom, when they create spaces where excellence is expected and celebrated rather than surprising and exceptional, they don't just create opportunities for themselves. So they create entire ecosystems of prosperity. They build economies, they establish institutions, they create legacies that outlive them. This is what it means to build a freedom zone. It's not about escaping the challenges. It's not about pretending that systemic barriers don't exist. Those barriers are real. Racism is real. Sexism is real. The obstacles that Black women face in corporate America are documented, persistent, and often brutal. But building a freedom zone is about refusing to let those barriers define what's possible. It's about choosing to build right where you are with the people around you in ways that create lasting impact. It's about saying the system may not value us, but we value each other. The system may not invest in us, but we invest in each other. The system may not see our excellence, but we see it, we celebrate it, we amplify it. And here's what's so powerful about this moment. Even as federal policies threaten to roll back diversity and equity initiatives, even as corporate America continues to hand pink slips to talented Black women while rewarding underperforming men with golden parachutes, even as the systems of power seem determined to maintain the status quo, Black professionals are demonstrating resilience. They are building businesses that don't depend on corporate approval. They are supporting each other in ways that don't require government funding. They are driving positive change in their chosen communities through sheer force of will and collective action. They are not waiting for permission. They are not waiting for the system to be fair. They understand that waiting for fairness is a losing game. So they are creating their own systems, their own standards, their own definitions of success. They are building the world they want to see rather than waiting for someone else to build it for them. This is the future that Tamara Burks is helping to build. This is the future that is already happening in cities across the South. And this is the future that each of us has the power to contribute to right where we are. The question is not whether change is possible. The evidence is overwhelming that it is. The question is whether you will be part of creating that change. Will you support Black owned businesses in your community? Will you mentor someone who's coming up behind you? Will you invest in Black led ventures? Will you join networks that amplify Black excellence? Will you use your platform, whatever it is, to elevate others? Will you build with intention? Will you create space for others to thrive? The South is not a place to escape, it is a place to reclaim. And the future of Black professional excellence is being written right now by people like Tamara Burks, by people like you in cities and communities across this country. You have a choice. You can wait for the system to change, or you can build something new. You can compete alone, or you can collaborate with power. You can accept the limits others place on you, or you can create your own definition of what's possible. The women and men transforming Houston, Atlanta, Charlotte, and cities across the South have made their choice. They've chosen to build, they've chosen to invest, they've chosen to create freedom zones where Black excellence is the standard, not the exception. What will you choose? Because here's the truth: the sky is not the limit. It never was. The limit is what we accept. The limit is what we're willing to tolerate. The limit is where we stop building, stop dreaming, stop demanding more. And right now, in this moment, Black professionals are proving that there are no limits, only choices, only possibilities, only the future we have the courage to create. So I'll ask you one more time: how will you contribute to building a freedom zone in your community? How will you support Black excellence? How will you ensure that the next generation has even greater opportunities to thrive than you did? The answer to that question will determine not just your future, but the future of everyone who comes after you. Choose wisely, choose boldly, choose to build. The revolution is not coming, it's already here. The only question is whether you'll join it.